According to my calculations, we got to page Nun Beis. So he says, starts like this: V'yom hashishi d'sheshes yemei Bereshis, on the sixth day of Bereshis. And incidentally, there was a top part here, I didn't read it. It's Tikkun Zun v'Yehudim. So he says B'yom hashishi d'sheshes yemei Bereshis. The pasuk says V'yomer Elokem na'aseh Adam. V'hu Adam Arishon atachton. This is our Adam Arishon. 1 second, I got to get something underneath this book. Okay. So he says this is the Adam Arishon atachton, and he also calls him Adam atachton. Shenivra lemata be'olam asiyah. Or maybe Ryan, he brings a proof of Adam lo kasiv. He doesn't say the man. Shaharecha lo kosev Adam be'oz hey. Haroma is the Adam Yudua, which is specifying a particular person. The Heinrich bezer anpin an nikra Adam Elyon, because there is a zer anpin who is called the upper man, but we're not talking about it. But instead, he says, in other words, when we say man, we're turning to the, as we saw, of the name Ma, which is Adam, and a Adam would be then that, but he says not that. Ela Adam Stam, but rather it's called just man. Ela Kosev Adam Stam below Oz Hey. The Horos the Einrich Adam Atachton, to tell us that it's speaking about the lower man. La Paka Adam de la Ela, to exclude that. Lahotzech of the low Ire Kan Adam Elyon. It's not talking here about the upper man. Shuhu Zer Anpin. And Mavar Od, and explains more. This Avid Bishma Shlim. Ki Adam Elyon Naasa Ayedech B'Shem Shalom. It's made through a Shem Shalom. The Heinrich B'Shnei Shemos Savaya Elokem. Now, if you remember the shir yesterday, and he says, let's see, what's the difference between what he's saying here, that it's Avaya Elokim, and over there he was talking about Avaya Adni, and he was talking about the importance of the word Amen. But over here he switches over to another one. He says the complete name of Zun, this is the name of Zun, of this Adam in Elyon, is Havaya Elokim. V'lechem nikra ha'adam ba'oz hey. So therefore, the man is called by the name Ha-Adam with Oz Hey Harom, is the Adam Shalom, which is referring, that man, the Shalom man, is the Adam HaElyon. Adam Atachton, but in the making of the lower man, the Emer Kam B'Pazo B'Yomer Elokim Na'asa Adam, over there it says, let's make man. That is just one name, Bilvad. Shuhu Elokim, which is what name, the name is Elokim, below Nikra Adam Stam. So he has two names. I'm not sure that translation, but going on. V'omer od the afal gavshin is boyer shachapasuk lo ire betikun Adam ha'elyon. So since now we know we're not talking about the tikkun of the upper man. Im kol zecha betikun Adam ha'elyon. Talia betikun Adam betachton. So the Havaya Elokim, which he says is Zun, he says that really depends on what we're doing down here, you and me. Kad ishtalim da. Because nishlam tikun Adam atachton, az nishlam gam tikun Adam elyon. You're doing that at the same time. Umavara inyan shlemos. So now let's explain what the shlemos is about. The ishtalim dachar v'nog. He says the shlemos hatikun shel Adam atachton. Hubasod Zachar v'Nekeva, it's the secret of male and female. The Haina Ayedera Nisira, that is, we're going to going back to the Yasira. The Oz Nifredu v'Nasru Adam v'Chava, this is where you see now that they have been separated, and they're now completely separated, or surgically removed. Adam v'Chava, they're not together anymore. V'Na'asir Shnei Partsufim, now you come completely to for Partsufim. Nifrada b'shleimim zeh zachar v'ashal zachar v'nekeva. He says la'ashlam kula, in order to make everything perfect. V'oz nishlam akol. Became in the gam Adam ha'elyon nishlam besod the nisira. So now we've performed. Well, the nisira takes place. Ayedecha tefilos masim tovim shal Adam Arishon, because Adam Arishon, now he says Adam Arishon, he means atachton, us. He says that through our prayers we perfect the Adam Elyon. Vaz nisakum zer v'nuk b'bechina b'panim, and now they're able to, through our praying, all actually being able to come to face each other. Mavoyer od be'inyan tikkun zer hazer v'nuk, and we explain furthermore in regards to the tikkun of the ZACHAR v'nuk, besod the nesira. V'hu ki kodem nesira, because before the nesira takes place, hoya zer anpen nikra b'shnei shemas avaya elokim. Zer anpen was called by those names. V'ata la'achar nesira, but now nesira is taking place. Then you have Havaya Sitra de Dachar, Elokim Sitra de Nuk. So this is what he says. He said, previously, I just still back on that Havaya Adni, trying to fit it together. He said that name, when you have the concentration on saying the word Amen, it was as a yichud, that it's actually the point of that mean putting the yisodas together. So that's actually the moment of yichud. Over here he says, Avaya Sitra de Dachar, Elokim Sitra de Nukva. Now he's talking about here the big ones. So he says, Nikra zer anpin besod shem Havaya bilvad, va Nukva nikros besod shem Elokim. V'az hu ikar hayichud, and then you have now the root of this yichud, shel shnei shemos, which represent complete opposites, Havaya and Elokim. So now he says, is pashet dechura bezer anpin mispashet benetzach hod yisod shalo. So in other words, zer anpin, I guess he means the light of the zer anpin spreads all the way through his body. And what's the purpose of it? But specifically, he didn't say that. He said it goes to the nai of zer anpin. Kedei l'seis mochin the nukva. And what's the purpose? The purpose is to be able to bring the mochin to the nukva. Now, we're just thinking, back to that thing about the Gra said that there's another Malchus out there altogether, and the process that we're learning is always referring to the, what do they call it, the Nukva de Gufa of Zer Anpin. Ki b'shasha oras hamochim yotzim Zer Anpin, because when the lights go out from Zer Anpin, al hanukva to the Nukva, before getting there, they have to be in the nai shall zer anpin. So this is just like we have the nai of zer anpin of ima coming into zer anpin, but it doesn't work exactly the same. Parts of the nukva. So then after it reaches this, or I guess he means the shefa that's coming through the 10 spheres of zer anpin, it reaches his nai, then it's going to wind up going into the parts of the nukva in this way. In this akanis and nukva umavor. So then she becomes built in the way that she needs, so that the light can pass through her. Umavor ke ima, that is ima, kamo she ima malveshes as a mochim shel zer anpin benetzachod yisod shalom. So the mochin that belong to zer anpin are guarded, let's say, so to speak, in her netzachod yisod, in her nai. Kadei sheyuchel zer anpin. In other words, they're what is it? They have a garment. They're clothed. That's it. Kadei sheyuchel zer anpin lekabel besocho oras hamochin, so that he can handle the lights of the mochin, because they're too strong by themselves. Kach sarak zer anpin. So the same thing is over here. Lahalbish as oras hamocha the nukva, in order to be able to close the lights of the nukva that are going to the nukva, which is in his nai, beluvashim and mshachim and netzachod yisod shalo, which are coming out of his nai. Kadei shetuchel the nukva the kabel oras zer anpin. So she has to be able to receive them filtered as well. V'omer od, and it has to come through the nai of zer anpin. But pume the ama, and then he goes like this. Ki oras ha-gevuros the das, so the lights, let's call the gevuros das misgalim, bepi ha-ama shuhu ataras yisod shel zer anpin. So he sees at the tip of the organ of zer anpin, he says that the gevuros, the 5 gevuros are seen there. Shuhu ataras yisod shel zer anpin, which is the tip of the yisod of zer anpin. And from that position, now it's reached the tip of the Now here's always this is the question. We're always learning in some way that and stated in places that the Ataras Yisod of Zer Anpin is the nukva. or in some way it grows as a nukva by itself. Over here it sounds like he's saying that this is the end of the line of Zeir Anpin, but it's not the nukva, but the nukva is another element. Or does it have to be created? That was always a question that I have. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, it's okay. And furthermore, Malchim is batalo, Chacha is kaimu. What does that mean? So they were the malachim of the name Ben, the malachim that broke. That were nullified. They're now in Olam Atohu, b'shas misas malachim, and they're out there in Klippa land. Kamnis kaimam and nistakto. Here they'll be able to be stained, and they're rebuilt. So what does that mean? He says, Chelkei hamalachim shal nukva, portions of the kedusha of the nukva. Chelkei hamalachim shal nukva, nizbarned or refined out, mined out. V'olo besod mayim nukvim, and they start going upwards, which is mayim nukvim. V'nisakno agidecha be'or mahachadash, and so that's our story. Is that they're rebuilt through this light, which comes out. I think it was this light that comes from the forehead of Zeir Anpin, or of, I'm not sure which forehead it comes from. It comes to the forehead of Ak, I think. And so these birurim that are now fixed up and ready to go, they become the mochim of the nukva. Now, this is a little vague to me. So he said that the birurim are going to become the mochim of the nukva. Now what I'm missing in understanding this is where do they fit into the nukva? Because they have to come from up above. They have to come from the moch stima of Eric Anpin. So they had to have been risen all the way. I'm thinking that rise all the way up and then come back down. And then they wind up in the Pia Amma of Zeir Anpin, and they go over to the Nuk, something like that. And she's built by them, by the Birurim. So they are her portion. They are the inheritance of the Nukva. So it comes out like this, that these malachim, they're able to come back and be able to sustain themselves in their place. So now he says like this, and we see that he talks about this concept in reference to halves of the year as well, because we're starting the second half of the year. Hadinim shel Zeir Anpin, heim kashim v'tekifim ba'odim berosh, parts of Zeir Anpin. They're tough while they're still up at the top. He says, which mochim? He says, dinim, the dinim of Zeir Anpin. Besofa naichim, but at the end they become more positive. V'heim nochim v'nim talking, because now they are sweetened up, they're made nice. V'nim talking, and just a second, I'm just not feeling good. V'heim nochim v'nim talking, k'shehem nimshachim b'sof, parts of Zeir Anpin, and so they're also set out in the parts of Zeir Anpin. K'dei lehislavish b'rosh nukva, in order to be able to be clothed in the head of the nukva b'bechinas mochim. So he says that b'sofa naichim, so they're now nice and sweet as they get down there. V'ha'inyan, who the inyan is, ki shorish adinim shel Zeir Anpin, that the root of the dinim of Zeir Anpin, hu mekoach netzachod yisod shel ima, is because the netzachod and yisod of ima, hamislavshim b'Zeir Anpin, are now clothed inside of Zeir Anpin. V'ima atzma hiba b'chinas makor adinim, and she herself is the root of the dinim, or the makor, the fountain of din. V'hinei dinim elo maschilim erosh Zeir Anpin, so these dinim, they begin at the head of Zeir Anpin. V'nimshachin mispashtim, the mata b'kol, parts of Zeir Anpin, and they extend down, they go all the way down into the parts of the Zeir Anpin. Amnam Kashimispashtim adinim benetzach hod yisod shel zer anpin, so that when the dinim spread down from the netzach hod yisod of zer anpin, afal gav shemiskabsim misgavrecha b'mekoich netzach hod yisod shel zer anpin. So even though that they are what? They are gathered together and strengthened mikoich netzach, from the power of netzach and hod of zer anpin, shehim bebechinas gevuros v'dinim, which are the lower part of zer anpin. I guess that's what he means. And as a result of that, they're the gevuros and the dinim. Im kol zera b'noichin, in any case, they're quiet, or they're nice now. V'nim talking about dinim, and the dinim that we find here, even though that we're in the lowest place of zer anpin, which is exposed to the dinim, even so that they're sweetened now. Mekevin shenetzach hod yisod shel zer anpin, so now the nai of zer anpin is now mislavish into the rosh of the nukva, as it becomes her mochin of al yedei kach, in this way, and nachlosh koach hadinim shebechem, that also weakens the dinim that are in them as well. Because the nature of mochim itself is a concept of rachamim. So now it comes back as the nai of zer anpin, and they become of just the nai, the lower part of zer anpin. They're actually mochim in the nukva. So the nukva be'ifcha. So now he says like this: Amnam bebechinas hadinim. When you talk about the dinim shall parts of a nukva, who behefach mamash amarno beparts of zer anpin, it actually works the opposite way that zer anpin does. This is the main bridge between male and female. Is that whatever she's doing is the opposite of what he does, and they're not moving the same. So the parts of zer anpin, v'hainu shachadinim sheyesh berosh parts of a nukva, the dinim that you find at the head of the parts of the nukva, heim noichim v'nim talking, they are quiet. Let's say noichim, I'm trying to word for that. They're pleasant, like lashon noach. So that in noichim talking and sweetened up. Parts of a nukva, but as you get down lower into the nukva, they get worse. Heim kashim, but the kifim, they're strong and they're powerful. But Inyan, and the Inyan is like this: Ki kol hadinim shebarosha, all the dinim that are in her head, nimshachem menetzach hod yisod shel zer anpin, which is a higher parts of, and relative to the nukva, he's positive, completely positive. But we also see that they go down, they get more quiet and more pleasant, and are sweetened when they become mochim in her head. So he said, parts of a nukva, but the dinim that you find at the end, though, they're not connected to zer anpin anymore. They come from her nai, which is her most dangerous part. So these dinim, they're not pleasant and they're not sweetened. Because they're not going anywhere. They're not going to become mochim someplace else, because this is the end of the line of Atzilus. Ki ein ba'olam Atzilus od parts of Tachas HaNokva. From here on now, they're going to go into tzimtzumim of different types. There's nothing for her to become, to get into the concept of mochim. So he says, going on. That's it. We're out of time.
Thank you.
No problem. Call to.